Right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Today's presentation is part of the Presidential Primary Sources Project. And our presentation today is I Like Ike, Election Icon, and it's presented by the Eisenhower Foundation. The Presidential Primary Sources Project is a series we put on every year, every Tuesday and Thursday from January to March. And it is a collaboration between Internet 2, the National Archives, and the National Park Service. This is just a quick reminder, by participating today, you are agreeing to be streamed, archived, and broadcast. We do keep all of our recordings on our YouTube channel for students and teachers to access later. All right, participation. We absolutely want you to participate today. We've planned this really great, well, I haven't, but Helen's planned this really great interactive program. So please participate as much as possible. A few expectations for participating. If you would like to be on video to participate, just leave a message in the chat and I will promote you. You'll need to accept that in order to be able for us to see your video. And if you're on video, you can kind of just raise your hand and we will call on you. If you just want to participate with your voice, you can use the little raise hand icon. It looks like a little red hand on Zoom. And then of course there's the chat. If you haven't found the chat already, it looks like a little caption bubble. Go ahead and click on that. We will use that a lot today. Again, participate as much as possible. It's way more fun if you participate. That said, please be really respectful of our chat box and our interactive tools. We want to make sure that we're staying focused on what our presenter is asking and that we're responding directly to them. Just make sure that we can address everyone's thoughts and questions. All right, and with that, I just want to thank you again for joining. We really are excited to have you. This is our website if you want to check out some of our future programs. You can also find the recordings there. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Helen.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Helen Pugh, and I work for the Eisenhower Foundation here in Abilene, Kansas. It's a balmy 4 degrees out today, so it's nice and chilly. I wonder what the weather's like for everybody else. But what we do get to do today is we get to stay inside, nice and toasty, and learn a little bit about Ike. So my job at the Eisenhower Foundation is to teach kiddos like you about Dwight D. Eisenhower, our 34th president, and the time he lived. And he lived at a really interesting time where horse and buggies were used all the way to the time of television being developed. So he lived in a really neat stretch of time. Today, we're going to focus on Ike as an election icon, how people still can remember his election slogan and why it became popular, how it kind of stuck in people's minds, and looking at the significance of slogans and campaigns as a whole, okay? So this is just a fun little photograph or a primary source that was taken at one of the many rallies for Eisenhower, where you can see all of the different states that had participated. This was for the Republican convention. Believe it or not, Eisenhower was wanted by both Republican Party as well as the Democratic Party because he was so widely liked for his past and his duties in World War II as a 5-star general. So it really shows that the support of the nation was really behind him. And they had a lot of fun with it as well. So why was Eisenhower's slogan so iconic? First, we have to understand that Ike, where we're saying, I like Ike, Ike was his nickname. It was his nickname from his boyhood. It's sort of a shortened name for Eisenhower. And so that's where we're going to get Ike. So in 1952 and in 1956, Eisenhower ran for president with one of the most iconic presidential slogans of all time, I like Ike. Today, we're going to explore one of the first presidential campaign commercials using I like Ike. And then we're even going to look at other slogans throughout our history in American politics that were successful and some that weren't so successful. So I want you to think to yourself, what would make a good slogan? And when I'm thinking of a slogan, I'm thinking of something that you would recognize. So what about boo doo 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 doo? I'm loving it. Does that come to mind? Does something sort of spark? You're like, oh yeah, that's McDonald's. I want some chicken nuggets, or I want a Big Mac, or got milk. That's from one of the dairy associations to encourage kids to drink milk. Snap, crackle, pop. Do I have any Rice Krispie fans out there? Yeah. So what makes these iconic? Why can we remember these? Or is there another slogan out there that rings a bell to you that you're like, oh yeah, I know what that's for? Just do it. Little Nike slogan. So when we think of slogans, they are really widely recognized or popular slogans. They're going to be interesting, or they'll stand out some way. They're going to be easy to remember. They might even rhyme. All right. So I like Ike. It's simple. It's easy. It's really like packed with a punch. And we'll see why, for other reasons, why it's going to continue to stay popular. Were there any other slogans out there that were popular, maybe in your state specifically, or as a whole? Did I get any slogans? If you
I
come
don't
up
see
with some,
any.
you can put them in the chat box.
Yeah, I don't see any in there, but Hazley did say that slogans are easy to remember and usually short. So
Short and sweet. And Hazley, you will definitely see that coming up in a bit. So after World War II, Eisenhower served as the Army Chief of Staff. So after World War II, he had a really big job in World War II. He was the Supreme Allied Commander of the Expeditionary Forces. So it's a big title. All that means is that he was the leader of every single Allied troop that was fighting in World War II. He was really well respected. And really was a wonderful leader. When he came back from that position and served as the Army chief, he went on to be the president of Columbia University. And then he even led joint military forces with NATO, the North American Trade Organization. So Europe was sort of like still in disarray at this time after World War II into the 1950s. And so we're trying to make connections in Europe. So the Europeans, nations are communicating with each other, and that another war doesn't pop up. And so he was really looking forward to, he was 60 years old at this time in 1950. He was looking at coming back to the States, maybe doing a couple more years as president of Columbia University. And then he wanted to retire. He was a grandpa. He had 4 grandchildren. He just wanted to enjoy his time. He had served his nations for decades, and he was a little tired. And so he wanted to fish. He wanted to grill. He just wanted to grandpa out. But the country was still at a place that needed good leadership, exceptional leadership. And the only man at the time that could do it was Dwight D. Eisenhower. And he sort of shook his head and said, a military man should not be in politics. That's not the place where a general should be. But despite his head shaking, so many people gathered up and supported him and encouraged him. And he saw that this really was what he needed to do to move forward with the next part of his life. So he ran for president. Here is a picture of Ike and his wife, Mamie, and they are on a whistle stop campaign tour. Whistle stop, woo woo, Abilene, Kansas. We have a lot of trains here. I don't know about where you all are, but it was fun because they traveled to, I want to say like 45 states. And they went on the back of a train. They would stop at little towns, big cities, stop on the back of the trains, give a little speech, rally their supporters, and then move on to the next stop. And so he was going to be one of the only candidates that would eventually be president that served as a general in our military. I want you to think, has there been another general that served in our military that then would become president of the United States? There's only been 3, and Dwight D. Eisenhower is one of them. So whether it can pop in your head or you end up Googling it and you put it in the chat box, let me know what you might find, because there's sort of the original president out there that served as general. Oh, I see a hand.
Go ahead, Irby.
Was Ulysses S. Grant one?
Ulysses S. Grant was one. Way to go, buddy. Fantastic. So we have
We have
Ulysses
some
S.
in the
Grant.
chat too. We have George Washington, Jackson, more Ulysses S. Grant in here.
Yep, absolutely. And George Washington, obviously general, and then became our first president, and Ulysses S. Grant. Fantastic. So we're going to look at Eisenhower's campaign commercial. And believe it or not, before Eisenhower, before the 53 election, TV was not common. Can you imagine that televisions, they just weren't a thing in homes? It's not because people didn't want it, they just didn't exist. It wasn't normal for people to have televisions in their homes because they just weren't easily accessible. They had just been developed. And not only did they not have a lot of televisions, there weren't a lot of television programs. So what's really fun about this campaign is this is going to be the first time presidential campaigns are going to be not only heard, because they were heard on the radio before, but now they're seen. So I want you to think of these questions as this commercial is being played. What sticks out to you? Again, we're thinking of that slogan, I like Ike, okay? We have Me Gusta Ike. So we're even crossing languages here. Were you entertained? And do you remember the slogan or the point of the commercial? All right, this is about 60 seconds.
I for president, I for president, I for president, I for president. You like Ike, I like Ike. Everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum. We'll take Ike to Washington. We don't want John or Dean or Harry. Let's do that big job right. Let's get in step with the guy that's left. Get in step with Ike. You like Ike, I like Ike. Everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum. We'll take Ike to Washington. We get where we are going. Travel day and night for president. Adelaide, go the other way. We'll all go with Ike. President, you like Ike, I like Ike. Everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum. We'll take Ike to Washington. We'll take Ike to Washington.
Now is the time for all good Americans to come to the aid of their country.
I'm curious, did anyone start like beating their hand to the, or their foot starts tapping and you're like, oh yeah. Hazley, yeah, it was fun and a cartoon. You like Ike, I like Ike. It rhymes, it flows. It's fun. You might have even gotten a smile, okay? Absolutely. Were you entertained? I always enjoy it. It was short enough. Yes, Hazley Elementary School. Do you remember the slogan? You might want to think about that a little later this afternoon when all of a sudden it starts coming up in your head and you're like, oh yes, absolutely, Natalie, that repetition just over and over and over again. That's why even like hit songs do really well. It's that repetition. It's simple, absolutely. So it's going to be Disney that actually worked with the Eisenhower campaign to create this video or this commercial. So it's the only political cartoon commercial that Disney ever did. And then they decided to stay out of politics following this. But did anyone notice the animals that were involved in this? Or any other observations that sort of popped out in the commercial? With politics, ooh, I like it. A donkey, question mark? You got it, Hazley. So with politics, elephants, Way to go, Natalie. You're going to have elephants that are going to represent the Republican Party, and you're going to have donkeys that represent the Democratic Party. So the elephant's really like strong, and because it's going for the Republican candidate, so it wants to make the elephant look strong and marching to Washington, to where the donkeys were much smaller and not as prevalent in the commercial. So great. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to be comparing. So this is a campaign commercial from 1950s. Okay, now we're going to check out a campaign commercial from President Kennedy's time in office. And again, this is going to be running for the president for his first and only campaign. So I want you to keep in mind, we said that it was Eisenhower's, there was lots of repetition. It was fun. It was a cartoon. Everyone likes Ike. And let's see if we can see the difference about a decade makes with Kennedy's campaign commercial. Oop, that's the one. Oop, sorry about that.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but that's a doggone season that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
and young enough to do.
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you'll cast your vote for Kennedy, and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Yep, Hazley, still lots of repetition. But with this one, there are those photographs and it's a bit longer. And I want you to think, if those photographs, it makes it, why do you think they would put photographs in that campaign commercial? You're right, Natalie, it did still have that happy, upbeat music, puts a smile on your face. But I want you to think, why put photographs? It's like even like holiday cards when you're sending photographs to family members and friends. So you're right. Yes, Hazley. So we remember what his face looks like. And not only that, was it just him? Or did you see something a little bit more in those photographs? Was it just John F. Kennedy? What you're going to see, if you missed it, it was actually his family. It was his children, because now we're making a connection to those families at home. We're making connections to moms and dads and grandparents, because it's up to you. That's the slogan. It's up to you to vote for the right person. Kennedy's the family man. So again, just like Eisenhower's, Kennedy, we have those similarities. It's upbeat, lots of repetition, trying to make a connection to the people. And do you think that this campaign commercial was successful? It definitely was successful, for sure. All right, we're going to check out one more campaign commercial. This one's going to be a little closer to our time frame, and we're going to be looking at the Obama campaign commercial, okay? This one was a bit longer, so I did cut it down a little bit for it to be about a minute or so. So I still want you to think about what sticks out to you. Were you entertained? And do you remember the slogan or the point of the commercial?
It was a creed written into the founding documents that declared the destiny of a nation. Yes, we can. It was whispered by slaves and abolitionists as they blazed the trail toward freedom. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
It was sung
by immigrants who struck out to the distant shores, pioneers who pushed westward against unforgiving wilderness.
Oh, yes, we can.
It was the call of workers organized, women reached for the ballots. A president who chose the moon as our new frontier.
And the king took us to the mountaintop, pointed the way to the promised land.
Yes, we can to justice and equality.
Okay, this one's a little bit different. Hazley, you mentioned there's still music. We have a personal connection with music. It brings up emotions to where with the previous two, I noticed for myself, I was smiling. And with this one, even as many layers as I have on me, I get goosebumps when I hear that music. It's a little bit slower pace. Natalie, you brought in the celebrities, okay? Again, this commercial is a little dated, so some of you might have noticed they were celebrities and some of you might have not noticed who they were, but great observations. And this is one of the beginnings of bringing celebrities into politics and thinking why bring celebrities onto a political campaign, onto a commercial? Why bring celebrities, whether they're musicians or athletes? Yes, you're right, Natalie, because they're popular and people make, again, that connection, whether it was with Kennedy and the photograph, making that personal connection, or I don't know a whole lot about this politician, but I definitely know who that athlete is and I follow that sport. And if they like that politician, I'll vote for them. Okay, so celebrities have definitely become a key part to many campaigns. And it was just a neat way to bring in the music and the celebrities. And what was the slogan? Did you catch what the slogan was? What was repeated over and over again? Yes, we can. It's short, it's sweet, it's to the point. And it's also very unifying because we're using the we. Yes, we can. And so obviously that's going to stick out in people's minds. It's going to send off some endorphins. It's going to excite people. And so that slogan is going to help win the campaign. And Obama was very successful with winning his campaigns and he won 2 terms as president. Awesome job. All right, so we are going to look at some campaign slogans, and I'm going to need you to help me. We're just going to read them, and I want you instinctually, from what we've learned, short and sweet, to the point, slogans that just work. I want you to guess, okay, hypothesize, an educated guess of who would win these campaigns. All right. So this one we'll do together because we already know that Dwight D. Eisenhower is going to win this election. But this is just kind of an example of what we'll do. So we have Dwight D. Eisenhower, I Like Ike, to Adlai Stevens. And Adlai Stevens is Adlai and Estes the bestest. So which one just sounds better? Solely off the slogan. Ike, exclamation point. Yeah, you got it. So Adlai Stevens and Estes, that was his running partner. You're right, Natalie, it's hard to pronounce. Adlai and Estes, the bestest. I think they were trying to get the rhyming down. They just missed the boat. It just didn't work out too well. All right, let's check out this next one. This is the 1948 campaign slogans. You have Zachary Taylor on the left, for president of the people. Okay. And then you have Lewis Cass on the right, the sub-treasury and tariff of 46. Now I know some of you are already really well versed of who our presidents were. So that's going to be helpful for you. And Hazley, you're right with Taylor. And let's kind of talk about for president of the people. Short, sweet, for the people. People like that. And when we look at Cass's, what's that even mean? Okay. The sub-treasury and tariff of 46. It's too detailed. There's too much going on. There's no connection to the people. Okay. And you're right, Hazley, the people can be anyone. So we're not talking about just, a specific group. We're talking about all the people or any of the people. Good job. All right, let's try our next slogan. I just love looking at these photographs, okay, of our former presidents and ones that ran against them. So this is 1852. And again, all of these photographs, I know his hat, isn't that fantastic? I might have voted for him just for his hat. That's not a good reason to vote, but it is, it's a great hat. All right, so we have in 52, the hero of many battles for Winfield Scott. That's not so bad. And then we poked you in 44, we shall pierce you in 52. And this was for Franklin Pierce. He had beat President Polk in the 1844 election. So that's a little cheeky, a little jab at his former win. All right, so we think the first is short, but the second is clever. You're right. So which one do you think it is? It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. The hero of many battles. Man. You're right. It is the second one. All right. The clever, it really did. It was fun. We poked you in 44 and we shall pierce you in 52. So even sometimes those clever slogans that are a little longer can still make people go, I like that. I wonder what he's about. Okay, 1964, again, we all know you know the answer, but it's fun to look at these different slogans. And so Abraham Lincoln, this is for his second term, and it says, don't change horses midstream. Okay. And then we have George McClellan, an honorable, permanent, and happy peace. I don't think George McClellan had any chance of wouldn't matter what his slogan was. He gave it a good try. All right. The words honorable, permanent, happy peace, those are all great things. Wouldn't you agree? We're like, yeah, that sounds good. And then you got good old Abe over here. You're right. Both are kind of weird slogans. Yeah. I don't know if Abe put a whole lot. He was like, don't change a horse midstream. What does that mean? It means if something's working, stick with it. All right. And that's what Abe's saying. What I'm doing is working. We're going to keep our head down, keep moving and get change. Okay. So don't vote for the other guy. Just stick with what we're doing right now. I need 4 more years to do that. Okay. So you're right. Sometimes they miss the boat completely on their slogans and they're a little weird. Okay. All right. Let's check out the 1896 campaign. We have William Jennings Bryan, no cross of gold, no crown of thorns. It's a little dramatic, but okay. No cross of gold, no crown of thorns. To William McKinley, patriotism, protection, and prosperity. What do you think? Both are good. Oh, you're right. The second has the alliteration. Good vocabulary word. Patriotism, protection, and prosperity. All of those P's. Absolutely right. McKinley, whoever wrote that up for him, I bet they got a job maybe on his cabinet. Or a speechwriter. It was very good writing on their part. Okay, so, you're right. The other one sounds very biblical. So with that, it could have been reaching for people that were more religious, Christian faith. And so at this time, that might have been what they were going for. And looking at a specific group of people within their slogan. And what we'll find today with these slogans is that when you get down to a specific group that your slogan is targeted towards, it doesn't always work out good for you. Usually it doesn't. When we're talking about, especially as people, we the people, right? We like it as a whole, even though we all know we're different and we have different political views and different backgrounds and upbringings, we still are the United States of America. So when those campaigns are referencing we, all, it works out much better for those political slogans. Okay, so we are going to be looking at words as well as slogans. And these are 3 political posters. So we have slogans, they'll be used in commercials or radios, but we're also going to have posters. And I want you to look at these 3 posters, and I want you to tell me what is similar. They're all successful campaign posters. They all won. Yep. Red, white, and blue, very patriotic. Similar colors. Stars. Bold lettering. I know who's running. There's something else. Slogans. Their names are on there. Yep. Look at those slogans. Ooh, the appeal. Wow, Stephanie. Great. The appeal of greatness. Okay. So we're looking at a wide span of time here. We're looking at Kennedy in 1960, a time for greatness. All right. We look at Reagan 20 years later in 1980 for president. Let's make America great again, which I bet rings a bell. I bet very few of you kiddos were alive in 1980. Okay. And so we have in 2016, 36 years later, we have former President Trump with his slogan, make America great again. Okay. So he tweaked it just a little bit, took out let's. And so the word great is also a common theme to a successful campaign. All right. It's like when your teacher or your parent says something, hey, that was great. Makes you, you never go, meh, when someone tells you you did a great job. Okay. You get a smile, you get some pride, you throw those shoulders back. And so the idea of greatness, that's who you want as your president. That's who you want as your leader. Now, who wants to check out some not so great slogans? Let's see. Oop, there's all of our greatness. Sorry, I'm a little behind the clicks this morning. All right, so not so great slogans. So this is, I'm not a witch, I'm you. And this was a campaign for a Republican Senate seat. And it was addressing her past, right? Question marks. So she, it was addressing her past that maybe she had practiced witchcraft in her past, and she's just trying to say, no, I'm not, I'm you, which is also a little like, and so not so great, right? Hazley, you don't want those question marks when you get a campaign slogan. You don't, that's like, next, I'm not even listening to what you have to say because should have thought about it. So not so good. Now, Jeb Bush, he was a popular politician. His dad and brother served as presidents of the United States. And this one, Jeb can fix it. It was looked at as, it was looked down upon because it was like, he could fix it, like he was a plumber or a handyman, which are awesome professions, but not the slogan you want for your president. So it was short, it was sweet, but you're right, it wasn't very inspiring. Perfect, not inspiring, sort of like, okay, I hope he can fix it. It's like lots of things are broken and we're going to try to do our best at fixing it, you know? All right, let's check out one more. Looks like Bob the Builder. Yeah, you're right. You're right. All right, we will look at one more. Okay, so let's make it a land and slide. So you might even hear the term land and slide when someone wins on such a high level. So Alf Landon, he ran against FDR and he lost really terribly. So out of all the electoral votes, he only got 8. So that's when you hear a landslide. It worked, but not in the way he wanted. He was on the wrong side of that slide, right? So just, it's really important, those words, although it was short and sweet, these are slogans that just were not so great, not so great. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna shift our attention from looking at other political slogans. We're gonna head back to Eisenhower's slogans. We're gonna look at some artifacts. And an artifact is going to be a man-made object that's going to tell us about a specific time in history. And these artifacts that we're going to be looking at today, they're going to tell a story. And I want you to think, they tell us clues about a specific time. So I want you to think there's questions at the bottom, what it's made out of, what was its purpose, what does it tell us about the time period, and who do you think this artifact might have belonged to? So again, you're going to be using some of your prior knowledge and investigate what these are as we look at the campaign slogans and paraphernalia from Eisenhower's time. And it became really popular to have this extra paraphernalia. So we're going to start with one of my favorites. These are campaign pins. And this is a hologram pin, and it starts off with "I like Ike."
We don't see your pins, Helen. We're still looking at your PowerPoint slide.
Oh, I'm sorry. Resume share. Okay. Let me get that up. Okay, do you see pins now?
No, I think you might have to reshare with your desktop because you might have just been sharing your PowerPoint.
Okay, that's exactly it. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay, Safari, there we go.
There we go. Now we can see them.
Got it? All right. Thanks for your patience. Okay, so we have our pins, and people would rock these for support. I have an Ike pin on today. It's nice and blingy, and this is a fun one to where it's a hologram where we have "I like Ike," and as we spin it, you start to see, oop, there's his face, nice smiling Ike. And even as we turn it, you can see, so these are all authentic time period, manufactured by Pictorial Productions in New York, okay? Are a lot of our items manufactured in the United States anymore? Not as many as they once used to. So let me open up that chat. Slogans all over, you're absolutely right, Hazley. Look at all of these. So "I like Eisenhower" and Nixon. Nixon was going to be, it was his running mate. And so we also have these pins that "Let's back Ike, 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 we like Ike." Again, it's those patriotic colors, the red, white, and blue. It's the stars that, unites us as a nation. So again, even on for campaigns, the slogans are going to be used throughout. Now, this is a fun dress. What do you notice that's all over the dress and the parasol? Ike, you got it. And so these would actually be the women that would wear these dresses and hold the parasols were called Ikeettes. And they would attend pep rallies for Eisenhower, and they would walk around and they would twirl their parasols, and they gathered a lot of attention. And people would want to take their pictures and get their pictures taken with them. And so even the idea of having fabric with Ike on it became very popular. We have some Ike gloves. Is it common for women to wear gloves today for fashion? Does anyone's mom or grandma wear gloves? Maybe for a special event? It's kind of, only celebrities, like the super fancy, right? Good point. Yeah, but back in the 50s and 60s, it was extremely common for women to wear gloves on the reg when they were dressing up. Okay, so these are just fun. Again, if we're checking out the colors, there's different fonts. It's I Like Ike, and they would wear these to dress up. Signatures. Yep. Good, Hazley. What do you think these are? For those of you that can, it's in kind of cursive. Cufflings. That's a great educated guess. They're not cufflings though. They're earrings. Now, believe it or not, these are called clip-on earrings. And so the pierced ears weren't popular back in the 50s. And so they would take these and they would stick the earlobe would go right here where my mouse is, and they would just clip on. And so even women's earrings were very popular. And so women were a huge fan of Eisenhower. At this time, the 19th Amendment was passed about 35 years before Eisenhower's election, and about half of the votes for Eisenhower were women. There was such a large turnout. It was the largest turnout ever in history for the female vote for president. And they really backed him and supported him. And one of the reasons was for his respect for women in World War II and what they did on the home front, as well as is participating in the war. And he acknowledged that women played a huge role in World War II. Now here's some men's fashion. Let's see if I can zoom in on that one. There's our slogan, even on a tie. And then this is going to be a hat. It's a paper hat that opens up and it sits up on your head. And again, these would be worn at rallies. They would be used to show support for Eisenhower, the candidate. And then these are a couple of my favorites. I want to see if you know what this is. It says, clean up with Ike. Hazley, good work. It is soap. All right. And this is an old bar of soap, but on things, even as soap, they're throwing out the Ike, they're throwing out his image. They're throwing out something cheeky and clever, clean up with. And so here we have an old paper cup. We have lots of symbolism on it. Obviously the slogan, I Like Ike. We have the stars. We have the patriotic colors. We have what animals on there? The elephant with a big R on it representing Republican. Okay, very good, very good. All righty. Well, those are their artifacts for today and our focus on slogans. And I can open it up if any of you have questions over the program or anything Eisenhower, I would be happy to share. I really enjoyed your participation today. It always makes it more fun. And there's his wife, Mamie, and him after he won. She became quite the fashion icon throughout her time when Ike was in office.
Hazley asked, how long was he president?
He did 2 terms. He was successful winning 2 elections. So he served for 8 years. And after his presidency, he did finally get to retire. And he did get to grandpa and fish and golf. He was an avid golfer. And he got to enjoy his retirement for a few years before he passed away.
We have another question here. Did any slogans focus on the First Lady?
Oh, there's some campaign pins that went on to say, we like Ike and Mamie too. And so, yes, there's campaign pins with just Mamie's face on it. because especially in the second campaign, after she was the first lady for 4 years and became very popular. So yes, Mamie played a huge role as first lady. Great question. It's fun in our museum that we have in Abilene. We have one of her inaugural balls, the second inaugural ball, and it's beautiful. Like I said, her fashion was really exquisite and pushed the lines. And I know in DC, her first inaugural ball is there on display at one of the Smithsonian's. So it's always fun to look at their fashion. All right, well, if there aren't any other questions, or if they're still coming in, thank you again for joining. And please feel free to check out more of our programs on our website and on our social media. And it was just really fun being able to spend some time with you this morning talking about Ike and the significance of political slogans.
Awesome. Thank you again for everyone who attended. And thank you so much, Helen. We really appreciate this great presentation and all your knowledge.
Great. Thank you. Stay warm, everyone.
Absolutely. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.